Okay, we now have the leads attached to the speaker, and you can see how these ring terminals are very, very secure onto these screws, these screw terminals here. That's not going to go anywhere. There's a little bit of play when you wiggle it back and forth, but that's normal. That's normal. It's not going to affect the sound in any way because I've tightened these down finger tight. You don't want to use a screwdriver on this. Even though it shows that you can use a flathead screwdriver on these thumb screws, I recommend that you do not use a screwdriver to tighten these down, because you don't know whether you might break the terminal off the speaker basket, or you might strip the screw itself. So don't use a flathead screwdriver. Finger tight is plenty tight enough. That way, if you have to loosen it for some reason, it's very easy to do. The other thing is, make sure that your leads are about this long. I think I made these about, probably close to 4 inches long. Now it depends on the application you're using. If you're using a different enclosure, then you don't necessarily have to make it as long. But I would say make your leads coming from the speaker itself at least 4 inches. So it gives you plenty of flexibility if you have to take the back off, depending on what kind of enclosure you're using, or if you're just mounting it open back and you want to take it down, to dust the top or clean behind it or whatever you need to do. Always make sure you have more wire than you really need, because that way it's a lot easier to work with. So now the next step I'm going to do is attach these leads to these leads. And you can see how I did this. Let me move this top portion of the speaker out of the way, and you can see what I did here on these enclosures. What I actually did was I fed the wire through this slot. See, there's a slot here. And then, to prevent the wire from either being pulled out too far or being pushed in too far, I knotted both sides. So there's a knot here and there's a knot over here. Now this is pretty short right over here. So what I might do is I might give this just a little bit more leeway. Maybe give it a little, maybe about an inch or two, so that it's not so tight right here. We'll see when I go to install the baffle, the top portion. Now, the one thing I am going to do though, before I permanently connect the wires, is, if you notice right here, I have a red piece of tape on one of the leads. This is to indicate the positive side of the speaker, because you want to make sure when you hook these up, especially if you're using them in pairs, you want to make sure that they're in phase. In other words, that the cones move in the same direction. So what I usually make sure of is that the cones are being pushed out rather than being pulled in. I think when a speaker has a cone being pulled in, it doesn't sound as good as opposed to being when the cone is pushed out. And when it's pushed out, there's more flexibility to it rather than being pulled in, because when it's pulled in, I think that's what causes a shorter lifespan on a speaker, when the cone is being pulled rather than pushed. So always make sure that your positive is on the right side. That would be the red wire, or if it's a different color wire, make sure that that's on the right side. Now it depends on how the cone and the voice coil is designed. Now some speakers may have it reversed. Okay? If it is reversed, then you got to go with what they have. But 99, or let's not go that far, maybe about 95% of the time, your positive is the right terminal, not the left one. So that's exactly how I have this wired. It's the positive is the red on the right, and the black is the negative on the left. So I'm going to use my little meter, and my little meter is right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on continuity, and then I'm going to verify which end of that wire is the positive and which is the negative on the side that is not marked, so that way I don't hook up the leads backwards. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll verify it together.